Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series.
Because creators are businesses.
What we do is not simple.
Give, the fans everything that they deserve.
Being creative
is like doing a 5,000 piece puzzle.
is something that you can learn and do over and over again.
Always be as authentic as I can be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am thrilled today to be sitting down with Chris Barriere, Director of Brand Marketing and Content for the Minnesota Wild. I am so happy. My hockey heart is happy. Chris, thank you for joining with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Danielle.
Yeah, I want to hop in first, set the stage, let people get to know you a little bit more. Where did sports and your love for sports kind of kick in? Did you play sports growing up? Where did your love start?
Yeah. So I grew up in Vermont, small town, Bennington, Vermont. I played all the sports, but I was by no means, you know, some successful jock athlete, but I always just loved sports and hockey, hands down, being my favorite. I don't come from a hockey family. I think typically that's how hockey works, right? Like, oh, my dad, my grandpa, my brothers, like no one in my family played hockey. But I fell in love with it. I was a diehard Boston Bruins fan as a kid. Watched every single game, and I just kind of became obsessed with it. Um, and so from a really young age, hockey was priority number one in my life. So to be able to work in the NHL today and to have this role with the Wild is something that I feel pretty blessed for.
Yeah. And you've had an interesting career where you were a production runner, you were a lead editor with the Devils, you were a production assistant for the NBC Sports Group, and now with the Wild in this director position. It's been a little bit of a crazy ride for you just in terms of how your role has developed and changed and where you've been today.
Yeah, I tell people my career is very much like my editing, non-linear. It's Yeah, it's been an interesting path. So, I mean, as a kid, like honestly, all I ever wanted to do was be a sports broadcaster. Like that was like from, I don't know, maybe age like 9 or 10. I can send you a clip where when I was 11 years old, or I don't know, fifth grade, however old you are in fifth grade, I entered this thing called the Fox Sportsnet Fancaster Contest, where regionally they picked somebody from each of the Northeast states to come to Fox Sportsnet New England for a Boston Celtics game, and you had to audition ahead of time and do like this fake, you know, um, studio read where you read off a teleprompter and just showed if you could sit on camera and somehow I was selected. I won the audition from Vermont,
Awesome.
so I got to go to a Celtics game and I got to do like a live hit during halftime. And I still remember, I don't remember why this was, I don't remember what like the concept was, but I remember exactly what I said. It was, "Hi, I'm Chris Barriere. I'm a Fox Sportsnet fancaster. Tonight's Celtics hero among us is Mason Hedberg. Congratulations, Mason." Who the hell's Mason Hedberg? I don't know. But I remember that I had to say that exactly. And I got a tour of the studio and the truck and being on the floor when the guys were warming back up for halftime. I was just like, this is, I'm never going to be an athlete, a pro athlete, but like, hey, I could maybe live that lifestyle doing this because I love, you know, the idea of being a reporter. And after that, I was hooked. I was like, this is what I meant to do. I would watch games and I would mute the TV and I would call my own play-by-play, driving my parents nuts. And then all the way through high school, took video classes and just really, um, had that path in mind to the point where when um, I got into college, I went to Ithaca College in upstate New York for sports media. So again, very specific major to exactly what I wanted to do. I was, doing the TV station shows there, calling games on the radio for the local, for the basketball team, the, baseball team, whatever. And then next door was Cornell hockey, D1 hockey. Um, so, I got heavily involved in them. I created and produced a show called The Big Red Face-Off, which I think still runs today on Ithaca's college station. So a little something I left behind, I guess.
There you
Uh,
go.
but, so this whole time I'm building up to this idea that I'm, hey, I'm going to be a sports broadcaster. And then when I graduate, I ended up getting an offer. My first full-time job um, was with the Red Sox as a video editor. And I'm like, hey, Boston's my city. Like, I'm from Vermont. I love this place. Like, I've got a lot of friends that live there. So I took it and I really started to get into the production side of it. But I just had this itch where I was like, okay, well, this is great, but like, I still want to be on air. How am I going to do that? I do a summer with the Red Sox, first as an intern. Following year, I do a summer as maternity leave fill-in, so a kind of a temporary role. When that's up, they didn't have a full-time offer to keep me, so I started shopping around and I got a job with the Devils as a video editor. So I moved to New York, reverse commute into Jersey with the Devils. My first year, I spent 2 years with the Devils. My first year there, they go to the Stanley Cup final. So in year one, I'm like, hey, welcome to hockey. All of a sudden, it's Stanley Cup final, Devils and
Yeah.
Kings. Um, Losing six, real bummer.
Yep.
Still angry about that. But then the second year was the lockout. So you go from bright lights, big city, best, possible scenario to be in to the lights are off. I don't know if I'm going to lose my job. Who knows if hockey's coming back?
Yeah.
So from there, I started shopping again, and I got a job with NBC Sports Group in Stamford, Connecticut, which was as like a production associate working on their long form hockey series, NHL Rivals and NHL Top 10. So kind of doing some documentary style work. And, um, so that was great because I was like, hey, I get to stay in hockey. I take that job right when hockey comes back. So now we can, finish up that half of the year. I was a little burnt out from the Devils too, just from the run of the cup run.
Like,
It was like the best thing ever, but it was also exhausting. Um, and I kind of realized this whole time, like what I'm doing though is I'm chasing the wrong outcome because in my mind, I still wanted to be on air. And somebody at NBC Sports, I was there for about a year. And as much as I loved what I was doing, the documentary stuff, traveling to different NHL cities, capturing content, bringing it back, making it part of this grander project. Um, somebody's like, Chris, you could be here with NBC for 30 years. We're never going to put you on air. We're never going to do it. You got to go cut your teeth just like everybody else. Like, a guy doesn't become an NHL player from high school to the NHL, right? You got to go to the minor leagues. You got to go wherever. So I really took that to heart and said, hey, if I'm going to do this, like, I got to take the chance. And I applied to, I don't know, 100 stations around the country, local TV stations, and heard a lot of nothing, heard a couple no's,
yeah.
and heard one, hey, we're interested from a station in Rochester, Minnesota, KTTC. And in my mind, I was like, hey, Minnesota, state of hockey.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I bet you, like this could work. Um, and I got the job based on a demo reel of, stuff that I'd done in my own time with the Devils or stuff that I'd done, just setting up a camera at NBC to do a fake newscast or sportscast or whatever. Um, so they took a chance on me, and then I took a chance packing up my car, moving from, the middle of Manhattan to the middle of rural Minnesota,
Yeah.
which was terrifying. And I did 2 years in Rochester, and then that turned into another 2-year contract in Green Bay. And to be honest, the hardest part about all of it was as soon as I got, as soon as I got into that local TV scene, I kind of realized like, the grass wasn't always greener. I actually really liked what I was doing.
Interesting.
Um, and I was really good at it. And now I'm actually less happy in my career. I'm doing what I always wanted to do, but I'm less happy. That's confusing, you know? Um, and after my 2-year stint was up in Green Bay, because everything on air is contract based, right? So
Yeah.
it's, you do a 2-year, whatever. They offered me the sports director role, which is, a little bit better. You're not working weekends as much, a little bit more money. And they offered me a 5-year contract extension. And my heart kind of sank because I was like, I can't do 5 more years in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I just can't do it. I
Yeah.
can't. it's just such a grind, and it's, I mean, some people love it. It's meant for them. And I met a lot of great people along the way, and I met a lot of people who are still crushing it in that local news
Yeah.
game. For me, it was, hey, the money's not great. The hours are really tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of thankless work. You are you're never done. You're always on. You're always, looking for that next story. You can't miss something. You're under-resourced. Um, Sports in general is getting cut more and more and more in the local TV scene. And if your ultimate goal is to, hey, I'm doing this because I want to be on ESPN one day, NBC, whatever, are you willing to enjoy that journey along the way? Or are you always just going to be looking at that carrot that's dangled and say, I'm going to hate this until I get to that point,
Yeah.
knowing you may never get there? And I decided the journey was not worth the destination for me. So moved back to the Twin Cities because I did like Minnesota. Got an opportunity with the Wild. I remember moving here being like, who knows, maybe a job will open with the Wild as like a producer one day.
Yeah.
About 3 weeks after moving to the cities, that exact scenario happened. And it was my old boss at the Devils who was really close with my then hiring manager at the Wild, who put in a good word for me. They told me when they brought me in for an interview that, like, after I got the job, they're like, we pretty much already had somebody in mind for this.
Wow.
We're going to throw your application away. But then we get a call from your old boss at the Devils, John Baccaro, and he says, hey, at least give this kid a shot. Like, he's really passionate. He's really good at what he does. And they said, all right, out of, um, respect to you, we'll talk to him. And we hit it off immediately, me and the hiring manager at the Wild, Paul Loomis. And next thing you know, I was hired, and
Wow.
now going on almost 6 years, I've been here with the Wild, growing back in my production world outside of being on air. So a full circle moment, but also a weird nonlinear journey that was driven by this idea that I had to be willing to part ways with because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And as soon as I made peace with that, it was the best decision I ever made.
And I love you said it beforehand. You're in sacred like hockey country right now, especially in the United States, and going from Vermont and Boston to Minnesota. Just would love to hear your perspective on the game already provokes and has so much tradition and emotion behind it. And your role right now, like what does brand mean in hockey?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I mentioned all that career path, and I didn't even really mention where I'm at now, right? Which
Yeah.
is started in video here, but then that quickly grew into a brand director. And for me, like, I mean, I'm still relatively new to the brand world. So, I love every day learning more about what is our direction, right? Like, what is our direction now, and where do we need to move, and where do we need to not move? Where do we need to protect? Where do we need to protect said traditions? And in Minnesota, uh, as a state, as a hockey fan base, and certainly as a team of the Wild, has a lot of tradition that needs protecting. I think hockey fans in general love tradition. All sports fans do. There's nostalgia to it. There's romance to it in a way, right? There's this idea that, hey, at every single Wild game since the very beginning, since all the way back actually when the North Stars were here, before they drop the puck, somebody's going to stand up on that platform and say the famous words, "Let's play hockey."
Yeah.
So simple, and yet so important to the tradition and the experience that a fan demands and expects when they come to a Wild game. It's no different than when you go to a Boston Red Sox game and they say, "Hey, eighth inning, we're going to sing Sweet Caroline."
Yeah.
Every game, right? Because
Yeah.
it's so important to that tradition and to that sense of community, I guess, right? There's a sense of like belonging to being a part of those traditions and those long tenured things. Um, what we don't have with the Wild is a ton of tradition built on success. Not yet, right? Like we're not the Montreal Canadiens. We're not the Boston Bruins. We don't have, 6, 10, 14 Stanley Cups and all of that. But what we do have is a passionate fan base um, that is unique around the league. These aren't just people who are like, hey, we love hockey and we love coming here because like this team's been a lot of fun. They're like, we breathe this sport. We are the state of hockey. We played with half the guys on the ice growing up. Everybody in that building is so knowledgeable, which is a blessing and a curse because you have such an intelligent fan base, but you can't trick them, right? You
Yep.
got they're authentic. They demand authenticity, which is great. But it's just a very intensely knowledgeable and passionate fan base of people who don't just love the game, but they understand the game because they played it, they lived it, and because of that, to answer your question, the brand of wild hockey is deeply important that we value that
Yeah.
and that we give people that platform to experience and celebrate it. Um, we have three. We recently did like a brand audit when I first started this role to kind of say, hey, let's retarget and refocus and make sure that we're pretty aligned with what we say we wanted to be and where we're
Yeah.
going with our business, but also what our fan base expects of us. And from that, we kind of created these three core words that we say these are going to be the three pillars of everything we do has to fit in one of these. Um, and that was grit, moxie, and unity.
Okay.
Right. So grit is like, hey, we're tough.
Yeah.
We embrace this idea that for 25 years we haven't won yet,
Yep.
but I promise you we are going to keep trying as hard as we possibly can. We're not
Yeah.
giving up. We're relentless in this pursuit of success in the state of hockey because we deserve it. And when it happens, I mean, the lid's going to pop off,
Yeah.
right? We are Moxie, which is like, hey, we can be a little swaggery here and we can be a little more. That's the progressive side of the brand where we're like, yes, we're tradition, but like we're gonna have some fun too. We're
Yeah.
gonna be, unique. And then the third one, which is like there's just no getting around it, and that's unity.
Yeah.
Because we are the state of hockey. We represent a community of like-minded people, and we're the cherry on top of that community, and that's something we don't take for granted.
I love that. And what you're saying is like every sports, whether it's NFL or baseball, everybody has really passionate fans. But hockey is a different level. And it's so interesting. To me, it's so much more emotional coming from, I sit in a similar seat I'm a Carolina Hurricanes fan, been a
Oh,
Carolina
sorry for your
Hurricanes.
loss.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I was at the game. It was a little heartbreaking, but we're going on almost 20 years now that we haven't had a championship, a Stanley Cup in our building. So it's one where the emotions around hockey are just something different. And what's really beautiful is I think every team has a great combination of you have the old of the past of where we've come from, the things that have happened, the players that played, and where we are today. It's really nice to see every team has their own take on how that content comes together. How do you guys approach that, bringing in the old of the wild, the new, and then what's to come?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly relevant question right now because we're coming up on our 25th anniversary next year. And when you think about anniversary seasons, you think about nostalgia and looking back and, what history we're going to tap into. And all that's incredibly important. But we're also in an interesting spot where we've got $15 million of dead cap space coming off the salary books with two player buyouts that we've been talking about and waiting on for years.
Yeah.
This idea of playing with one hand behind your back because of the salary situation is completely different next year.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of major players, up for contract extension renewals. We've got the salary cap itself going up. We've got building renovation plans in the work. We've got a new naming rights partner that will soon be announced coming on. So like there's just a lot of new paint and new
Yeah.
things going on
Totally.
um, with the Wild. And because of that, it feels almost a little tone deaf to be like, let's focus solely on our history
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
look at what's in front of us. You know what I mean? So we're kind of like internally, we're saying like, hey, we're going to respect the past, but we're going to embrace the future.
Love it.
And, how do you strike that balance? How do you determine when to
Yeah.
um, tap into nostalgia and when to tap into what's to come? Our fan base is it's interesting because on one hand, they do love the nostalgia and they do love, I can tell you the top 5 moments in every Wild fan will tell you the same 5 moments in Wild
Yeah.
history over and over again. And our goal is kind of like, I can't wait until those 5 moments are different. I can't wait until those 5 moments are new, you know? And we want to be on the forefront of making those moments come to life. Because personally, I'm kind of sick of it. I'm kind of sick of hearing the same
Yeah.
okay success stories over the last few years. I'm really excited about what's to come. And this fan base is so desperate for success and they're so deserving of it that like I want to rev up that excitement. That's what I want to do with the brand moving forward. I want to keep doing new and bringing new ideas to this, but I don't want to forget the past. I want to respect the past in that process too. And I want to create the history that's going to be talked about. I want to be a part of that capturing and narrating and cultivating that history that's going to be talked about years from now at the 50th anniversary and the 100th and so on. Um, so we feel we're due. We feel we're overdue,
Love
and I
it.
think our fan base feels it too. And we're not trying to be tone deaf and pretend that like we're not. Like we're like, yeah, this is a window. We're ready to go. Let's talk about that.
Love that. With all of the juices you guys have going, embracing this what's to come in the world of deadlines and season schedules, 80 something games plus playoffs and then performance metrics, how do you like to keep your team energized and creative and feeling innovative?
That is one of the most difficult aspects, I think, of any creative leader,
Yeah.
right? Is, you know, creativity, I think, unlike some jobs where it's like hours equal production, right?
Yeah.
Come in, you're an accountant. You need to sit in that chair and you need to do the accounting. That's your production. Creativity needs fuel.
Yeah.
Creativity needs space and it needs the ability to fail and it needs reinforcement on the ability to fail. And, you know, you have to cultivate you have to cultivate that space and that environment for your creatives in order for them to do the very best work that they can do. The challenge is, the challenge is the same for anybody, quality versus quantity,
Yeah.
time, burnout, um, finances. Sports are such a fun business to be in. But it is different. It's not, it's a lot of people take a pay cut to work in sports at an equivalent role that they would get in a medical field or a finance company or whatever, simply because it's so competitive that there's a bit of a pay cut to it. You get a bit of your currency is paid in passion.
Yeah.
Um, so you have to ignite that passion and you have to rely on people who you have to bring in and create a group of people who truly want to make a difference and don't just want to collect that paycheck. I tell my people that all the time. I'm like, if your job is if you're just like, hey, I'm here to climb a ladder and make as much money as I can, I'm like, I'll help you do that somewhere else. I'm not saying we're not going to pay you, but like your primary motivation for working in sports should be, I want to be a part of something
Yeah.
that truly gives me like that scratches my soul. You
Yeah.
know, there should be a part of your life that feels a fulfillment from this job, right? That's why it's a dream job for many people. It's easy to forget that sometimes in the grand scheme of a season because it is a long season and people get tired and burnout. And if you're having a bad season, and people always say, oh, the business side of a team, like win or lose, you got to be able to perform, of course. But everybody would be lying if they said that when the team you work for isn't winning, it stinks. Like you feel the pressure, you feel the energy, like it all radiates. And on the flip side, when the team you're working for is winning, you feel that too. You feel the high of it, you feel the excitement, you feel the whatever. So my way of motivating my team is by protecting their creative space.
Okay.
Um, I I try to I try to give I mean, I oversee our video team and I oversee our graphic design team. And in both of those areas, you need to give people a pasture to play in,
Yeah.
so you need to set those boundaries of, hey, here's what you have to work with. Here's your timelines. Here's what you can't do. Here's what whatever. But you got to extend that pasture as big as you possibly can to
Yeah.
let them roam because creatives need space. Creatives are outdoor cats. They're not indoor cats. And then you got to trust them. You got to say, uh, my job is to give you the opportunity. Your job is to give me the creative product.
Yep.
And I think that since I've been here, I've been super fortunate to work with incredibly talented creative people.
Yeah.
And those people just make life so easy because you can trust them to say, hey, I'm going to keep giving you the opportunity. You just keep delivering awesome stuff, and away we go.
And all the ways that fans are able to take in sports today, Twitter. I mean, I scroll Twitter for hours and hours when I'm needing to hear something about my team through video and social content for the Wild. How do you decide what needs to be out there, needs to be bigger, and what's an item that just, maybe needs to be more of a whisper of a content piece?
Yeah, we try. I mean, man, social media is tough because the loudest critic might not always be the majority critic, right? And we deal with that a lot where we might have something that's, I think the examples there are where do we stand as a brand on certain
Yeah.
things, right? I mean,
Yep.
every brand right now in today's world, uh, there's a spotlight on you when something happens, or when it comes to an anniversary date of something, or it's um, you know, a political initiative or whatever it might be. I think a
Yes.
lot of people look at you and say, okay, Minnesota Wild, what's your take on this?
Yeah.
Which could be fair or unfair. But whether or not it's fair, there's still a strange expectation for you to decide how to respond to that. And then every brand has a decision. They can either take a stance on that, knowing that there's collateral damage that comes from that, both positive and negative,
Yeah.
or they can choose to not take a stance on that, knowing that there's also
Yeah.
repercussions for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe the Wild didn't, say anything about blank.
Yeah.
Or, oh my God, I can't believe the Wild just said this about blank. That's hard because, I look at it and I say, um, first of all, we have a lot of very passionate people that have their own personal opinions on plenty of these issues internally that you have to be sensitive to, of what you're asking them to do. But at the end of the day, too, you also have to respect that, if the company is going to take this stand, personal opinion or not, that's the stand we're going to take.
Yeah.
Um, we have not solved by any means, like plenty of brands, how to do that. We have not cracked the code for how to decide what to do. And in the last couple years, Minnesota in particular has been a very microcosm example for some of this stuff. I mean, all
Yeah.
the way back to the death of George Floyd,
Yeah.
to and kind of the riots that ensued after that. Well, how do we as a sports team respond to that,
Yeah.
right? That was a huge item of discussion that, no matter what we did, like we were going to take backlash for either support for or lack of. And at the end of the day, I think the only thing you can't do is to stop talking about it and stop trying to find the right thing to do.
Yeah.
There's probably never going to be like that clear answer of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I think is the worst thing you can do as a brand in terms of how you're presenting yourself and what you're putting out there or trying to, hide from putting out there or whatever is like don't just ignore it. Like you
Yeah.
have to be willing to talk through and have those tough conversations with high level people
Yeah.
to determine, hey, how are we going to associate our brand with whatever we're talking about here?
It's always a very fine line to walk. As you said, you're not going to please everybody. Everybody's going to have an opinion, especially in the social media world we live in today. It's such a very, very fine line to walk and tiptoe across.
Yeah. I feel bad for our social media, our coordinators and our social media team because they're the ones that have to look at all the comments and we might post something. It could be simple. We might post something that just, oh, wrong time to do that, or oh my gosh, why would we have done that? In the grand scheme of things, it might not be that big of a deal. But
Yeah.
the comments that come in, they
Oh,
might come in and be like, oh my God, look at what just happened. And 80 people are saying this. And it's just like, hey, don't forget, this too shall pass. Like it's
yes.
okay. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
but I also understand that like it's exhausting if you like you can't go down that rabbit hole of constantly seeking comment validation because comment validation, whether it's your personal accounts or whether it's your company accounts, is such a dangerous game of like it's where you put your blinders on. It's where you forget what your actual values are and you start warping your values to what you're seeing in response.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't, I'm not saying, hey, ignore what all your fans and your patrons and your customers think. No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that it's a dangerous game to rely solely on social media comments to dictate what you think a true response to whatever you're saying is, because I think it's so warped.
Yep, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I want to tap into your production side here real quick. I am the type of fan who loves to be in her seat before game starts so I can be able to see the hype video. I love the hype videos that every
We appreciate you.
Thank you. I love it. I feel there's just an energy that comes off of this, but I would just love to tap into your mind and hear from your perspective, like blank slate to final cut and what we're seeing on the jumbotrons. What is a hype video being put together? What does that process look like?
Yeah. Well, the main open video is the biggest one of all of that, right? The one that plays, like you're saying, just before the team takes the ice,
Yeah.
lights go dark, the lasers, the lights start going, and the
Yeah.
video plays. That's one of the biggest pieces of production every single year. Typically, about this time, end of May, early June-ish, maybe as late as July, we start talking about what's that story? What's the theme? What's the concept? What are we going to go with? What crazy ideas are we going to bring in, crazy cameras, whatever. And we're fortunate that, you know, we have a little bit of budget to play with for that particular video because, like you said, that's going to play 42 times a year. It's the first impression that you make on everybody's night at that game. For some people, it's the first hockey game they've ever been to. That video alone is their introduction to what a live hockey game is like. Like, better be good, right? And at the end of the day, its job is to get everybody fired up so that you have the highest level of energy when it starts the game. So because of that, there's a little bit of money and there's a little bit of like, let's do this right. And then you use the majority of the offseason to create that creative concept. A lot of times, most teams will go out of house either for set design or even for production of it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have like your internal stakeholders like myself, who would kind of be like the creative producers or consultants that work alongside whatever company you're bringing in. Typically, you want to shoot hero stuff with the players.
Yeah.
So you're going to wait and get that on media day because that's when you have your best case of, okay, we're going to have smoke and flames and this and put them on a rotating thing and they're going to look super epic and stare down this camera or whatever it is. And that's always fun, but that's tough because you might plan for that for a month. And then on media day, it's like, the guys come in, they've got to do, typically what happens is, you know, you might get each guy for 5 minutes tops.
Yeah.
And they're all hungry because they came in that morning. They had to do their blood tests and their annual
Yeah.
exams or whatever. They're not allowed to eat. They got to fast before that. And then they got to do and run their gauntlet and they got to answer some of the same questions 10 different times at
Yep.
10 different stations. So by the time they get to you, it's kind of like, all right, Chris, what do you need? And you can tell that you're like, how do
Oh
I get the
shit.
most out of you without making you want to hit me over the head with that stick, right? So you read and react to the guys a little bit. You push them because you're like, this is my one chance to get this very creative, intense content that we're going to use all year long. And I think that's the most fun part, that like window of like, here comes all 20 some odd guys,
Yeah.
one by one by one. Let's get these awesome shots. And then you spend the next couple weeks absolutely crunching on the back end with the post-production side, putting it all together, sound design, final touches, mix in all the, motion, animation, graphics, whatever else is going to go into it. And then a really fun part for us, at least, is before it actually happens, our owner, our team president, and often our general manager will come down to the arena for like a dress rehearsal, and we'll turn off all the lights, and we'll, for the first time, show the final product
Yeah,
to an empty stadium except for them.
love it.
Um, and then you just pray like hell that they like it because you put a lot of effort into it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, that project alone is one of the most fun projects to work on. We've done, cranes and zipline cameras and flames and point of view drones and all sorts of crazy stuff before. And it feels like a Hollywood production when you do that because it's a big, big deal. And then once you get into the season, you don't have the opportunity to do something that grandiose.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little more, normal. But that one in particular is kind of one that we circle every year and say, let's make this awesome.
Yeah. As a hockey fan, I've gotten so energized, and I love the environment that those hype videos create. But as someone who has taught themselves to edit and to do all these different things, I sit there in fascination that you guys are like creating these things that are just, once again, you see it for 42 games a year and you never get sick of it. But it's one where it's always really cool to see the concepts that are created, even going into the playoffs too. It's my favorite game one, first home game. You're like, all right, what have we done this year? What cool thing have we got to
Yeah.
look
Yeah. And I've been to plenty of Canes games. I was actually at Hurricanes Capitals game 3, one where they busted them open like 6-1 or something like that.
It's a good
Um,
one.
Great game.
Yeah.
And what I love about, I mean, again, it's like, how fun is it to get there and be like, all right, what am I going to see? What's going to get me
Yeah.
fired up? Playoffs, especially because you're like, now I get to relive some of these moments. And the Hurricanes are really good at tapping into, hey, this is the loudest, like Caniacs are nuts, right? Like this house is intense. And they do such a good job uh, of what is one of the most difficult yet important assets of in-game entertainment, which is get response from the crowd.
Yeah.
Our GM always says, hey, the game operations is good for a goal a game,
Okay.
meaning like you in the content that's playing in arena specifically, the time of it, the energy, the read and react response, the direction that you go is what's generating as much excitement and
Interesting.
energy in the building as the game itself on the ice.
Yeah.
If you do that job effectively, not only are you energizing the fans, you're also energizing the players, and you're creating that hostile environment for the opposing team that he says, I believe that game operations, effective game operations, is good for one goal from
Yeah.
our team game. It might be the difference that one guy needs to get that jitter or whatever, that one extra step, and he scores that goal. And
Yeah.
that's awesome because whether or not that's true,
Yeah.
what a motivating feeling to be like, oh, we're helping.
Yeah.
It heightens the importance of what you're doing. And that goes back to what we were talking about before. That's a motivator, that's a motivating factor to a creative,
Yeah.
right? Like a creative wants to make exciting work, but a creative doesn't want to make exciting work for themselves.
Yeah.
A creative wants to make exciting work for others to see.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
art is meant to be shared, right?
Yeah.
Art is meant to be, interpreted and viewed and felt, and to create that emotion.
I do want to just tap into, you're in this director position. This is your first time in a leadership position of this size. How has how have you evolved as a leader since stepping into this director role?
Great question. I think for me, like I said before, again, it goes back to, am I leading, am I leading work or am I leading people?
Mm,
Right. And the philosophy I try to go with is I'm leading people. The people are doing the work. I used to do the work,
yeah.
especially on the video side, which makes it easier because, you know, I gotta imagine when you're in war and a commanding officer is telling you to get in the trenches, but he's been in the trenches too, it means something, right? Like, so I can relate to a lot of the things that I'm asking the team to do because I've done it myself. Um, but I also I just look at it as in a philosophy of like if my job is to motivate people and my job is to get the best out of them and create the opportunity for them, then like I have to like it's my responsibility to protect that.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility to listen to my team um and constantly try to be in tune with what they're doing. The higher you get on that role, the harder it is because your pulse of the day to day is
Yeah.
less, right? So, you know, that's the challenge is that you're not involved in the nuance that you're, and I think that's why a lot of leaders that I've seen or witnessed or worked for, um, the negative that people would say about them is like, oh, so and so just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
So and so doesn't understand, right? To be naive to what you're asking of your team or to be naive to what their actual situation is a major threat to leadership. And the way I think you overcome that is you create the time for your people and you create the trust in them that like there's nothing better than when somebody comes to me with a really difficult thing to talk about and yet they're willing to talk about it with me because I look at that and say, okay, wow, they trust me.
Yeah.
And they not only do they trust me to bring it up, but like they believe in me to help fix it. That's pressure because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, oh no, I don't know how to fix this, but it makes me feel I don't know, like honored, I guess, that like they trust me as a leader. When I got hired with the Wild as a producer, like I'd never managed a single person in my life.
Yeah.
Then I got put on as a senior manager of video production 2 years into that, and all of a sudden my team grew and I had three people under me. It was super weird. I'm like, I don't know, like you guys are my friends. Like, I don't know how to be
Yeah.
your manager. And then that three went to six. And then that six went to seven. And then that seven went to 15 and now 17. And it just grew and it grew. And as it's grown, um, I think the one thing I've tried to do the whole time through is stay grounded and stay level with everyone on my team, but also stay authentic to the fact that like as I grow, I'm growing into areas that I don't yet know or have
Yeah.
skill set. I'm not going to pretend I do.
Yeah.
I've seen some people come in and be like, in a job, come in and be in charge of something. And I think there's like a complex of feeling, well, if I'm in charge, I have to look like I'm in charge
Right.
and I know everything. And to me, especially in this field, counterproductive.
Yeah.
The difference is, hey, I don't know. I have no idea how to do that,
Yeah.
but I bet you do, or you probably have a better idea than me. How can I help you do the best that you can do, knowing that I don't know how to do it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
be authentic to that because people see through it. People will see through if you try to BS your way um, into leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that especially now, I mean, uh, I'm the worst videographer on our video team. 'Cause I don't touch the camera anymore. I wouldn't pretend to be. I wouldn't
Yeah.
pretend that I'm the best videographer. I'm the worst.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, it's not my job to do the video anymore. It's my job to lead the video team, right? So it's like I'm being authentic to that fact that like as your role changes, so too does your skill set and your knowledge and your whatever, and just be open and honest about that because that's what's going to earn you the trust and the reputation of your team, which is going to keep that healthy ecosystem alive.
I love that. We've been talking so much about the fan base and, how much the fans, are so passionate, but how much they buy into the team. Has there been a story that going back to, you may take a pay cut, but you're really going off the passion that you have for the job and for working in sports? Has there been a story that's come back to you from a Wild fan that is reminding you like this is why we do the work that we do. This is why we love doing what we do.
Yeah. I wish we had more, like, I wish there was more, I don't know, town hall meetings with Wild fans that creative was invited to, because every time we do get a chance to get in front of the fan base and hear some of the stuff that they resonate with or whatever, it just feels so, it reminds you like, whoa, wow, like I can't believe that we're making a difference. I think oftentimes it's the stuff that we don't even think about, or the projects or the videos or the whatever, where to us maybe it was kind of routine or just like, oh yeah, let's do that and get that out there. And to somebody, they're like, oh, this was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. You're like, really? Okay. Um, so it's a reminder that like everything you're doing matters to somebody. And I can't really think of like a specific example off the top of my head other than just um, yeah, probably the campaign I hear about the most from our fan base is the Not Weird Wild campaign that we launched a couple years ago. So Not Weird Wild is um, it's like a player-centric spoof brand campaign where it's the idea that, hey, a lot of things that happen in hockey are unique
Yeah.
and to the outside hockey world might make zero sense.
Yeah.
But here, like, you know what? That's not weird. That's just wild. That's just like what we do here at the Wild. So, we have this whole campaign. It's kind of like This Is Sports Center-esque, where it's very, filmed kind of handheld, like The
Yeah.
Office style, very shtick heavy. And we make the players do these crazy skits, and then tag it with the Not Weird Wild line. One of my favorites is we got a guy, Marcus Foligno.
Yeah.
He's known as the Moose. He's
Yeah.
Moose, right? So we're here in Minnesota. We have Moose in Minnesota. We filmed a spot with him where we put him in full hockey gear, brought him out to one of our many lakes, threw him in full gear into the lake with his stick over his head, and he rises out of the lake and like turns his head very slow and majestically like a moose. And the whole shot is like this family's driving a truck. They pull up and they're like, "Oh, wow, mom, look, it's a moose. Can we pet it?" And she's like, "No, honey, just enjoy it from the distance." And then it cuts to this shot of our moose coming out of the lake, right? Now, if we had tried that spot, we've been doing these ads for 5 years. If we had tried that spot in year one, Moose would have been like, "No way in hell am I putting my gear on, going and jumping in some lake, you psychos. Like, what are you talking about?" But we built this reputation with this campaign that not only fans would talk about, but our players started to see them and be like, hey, these are actually pretty funny. We really like these. We'd have players come up to us and be like, hey, you should do this. Or what if you did that? We're like, hey, there's something here. Like our own guys are talking about this and they're enjoying it, which meant that like they were willing to invest in the crazy ideas because they believed in us that we were going to make it look good. We were going to keep hitting. We were going to keep landing, right? And the comments were always, "Oh, this campaign never misses," or "This is the funniest thing the Wild have ever done," or whatever. Um, and that was awesome to be like, okay, this is working, but also talk about you keep resetting that bar of
Yeah.
what do we do next? How do we go bigger? How do we go crazier? How do we keep that shock value alive?
Yeah.
What's the next throw a player in their full uniform in a lake going to be? Um, and that to me is more than anything when I tell a fan I work in marketing for the Minnesota Wild, that's the number one campaign that they bring up is the Not Weird Wild campaign.
I love it. It's so funny because I think every team has their own version of it. You guys have that from a marketing perspective. For Carolina Hurricanes, when we think about it, like we jump very quickly onto, we have a lot of things that get said to us about media. Like media just does not love us sometimes. And we love to turn that into shirts, into things that just we then wear around really proudly. I think every team has their thing, and
Yeah,
it's
the bunch of jerks one, right? That was great. When Don Charity called them a bunch of jerks, they were like, all right, let's embrace it. I mean, we talk about how, like, hey, back to those core words, grit and unity and tradition and all these things. And that is so important to hockey, but it's a double-edged sword because hockey also has a stigma of being a little too safe, a little too, like hockey players are not as outgoing or as interested in self-promotion and self-branding as some of the other sports. And because of that, there's a missed opportunity. So we always look at it and say, hey, like it's our job to help take the helmet off the player.
yeah,
I don't want you as a fan to be like, your only option shouldn't be, oh, I love, I love Kirill Kaprizov because he's such a good hockey player. I want to hear somebody say, I love Kirill Kaprizov because I think he's this, and this, and describes a characteristic of him, the human being, right? I mean, basketball is the king of that. LeBron James is known around the world for as much as a basketball player as he is as LeBron James, the human being. Hockey has such a challenge with that. And I think a campaign like this helps put like reveal the quirkiness and reveal the character of our players and how fun and funny they actually are and relatable they are, right?
Totally.
Hockey players are like, these are not I mean, they're incredibly talented with what they do on the ice, but these are people that anybody can have a conversation around a bar or a kitchen table with.
Yeah.
That's just the way hockey players are. And our job, I think, is to like make people feel closer to that player and that human being through relatable content like projects like Not Weird Mom.
100%. 100%. I like to say all the time, I'm like, whenever we get to see behind that curtain, behind as a fan, to be able to see them in all these different environments, like NHL came in for the day and followed our chef around, and you saw the guys eating and all the stuff they were eating. They're like, they eat crazy shit just like with
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Jalen
exactly.
Chatfield loves PB&J sandwiches just like we do.
And he
Like,
cuts his, I think he cut the cross stuff. I saw that. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, so it's one of those things that you get to see and you're like, he loves PB&J sandwiches. Just it's one of those crazy things just to think that he wouldn't, but it's just like you see that and you're like, they're just like us. They eat just like us. They're regular people too that just have an incredible skill in this area.
And from a business standpoint, when you look at that and you apply it to like why we do it, it's like, okay, well, you got to believe then that, somebody sees that and says, I love Chatfield because he does the exact same thing I do with my sandwich. Next time I'm in the team store, guess which jersey I'm buying? I'm buying Chatfield. He's my new favorite player, right?
Yeah,
I'm 7 years old and I see that content. Now he's my hero for life. He's the first player that I become obsessed with.
yeah,
Um, and in today's social media world and the ability to showcase these players in so many different ways, um, and in relatable ways, it's like the opportunity to grow a fan base, not just based on the logo that's on the front, but based on the name on the back,
yeah,
is the biggest change in hockey marketing in the last 5 years.
yeah,
Other teams are ahead of it. Other teams or other sports are better at it. Not teams. Other sports are better at it. Hockey's been behind, but there is a true push to say we are tradition, we love traditions, but we're not just going to try to sell people on the team. We got to start selling people on the player. We got to start selling the people. And hockey's getting better at that, finally.
yes. Yeah, it's exciting to see. And I think even my dad and I, who have, who we have season tickets, we go together and we both work in marketing to sit there and during the playoffs, the Hurricanes had it through their app of, download the app
Right,
and
so
the light show. I was sitting there, I was like, from a marketing perspective, I was like, you got people to download the app, you have people interacting with the app. And I said, and now you've created a thing where you can now record your interactions during this light show so the hurricane social teams can go and grab some of this content too and be able to use it. I was like, it's genius when you come and think about how do you plug all these things in. But as a fan, you're just sitting there holding your phone up for a light show. You don't understand
and
the
data is king, right? So
yeah,
like think about all that data you're collecting, okay, so we know this number of people download the app. We know that this number of them is season ticket members. This number is first time through the building people. And it's just like anything. I mean, analytics drives so much of what you do, but also like people don't like signing up for stuff. It's annoying. But if you can find a way to do it like that, where it's like, hey, this is a fun reward for you,
yeah.
but in return, we also get a little bit of we mine some data from you. Kind of seems like a fair trade.
Totally, totally. Chris, I can't thank you enough for sitting down with me today and let me dive into your world and your career. And I so appreciate you taking the time with me today.
Well, thanks for having me, Danielle. This was super fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, you guys, I'm going to have all of Chris's socials linked down below as well as the Minnesota Wild. So please go give them a follow. Go check them out. Stay up to date with everything they got coming up. And as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.